and my only disappointment is having seen the list of papers, the list of speakers. I feel very sad that I'm not here to sit through many of your sessions and participate in your discussions and debates. But I hope there will be a publication which comes out of this conference, and I hope I'll be able to see whatever written papers are available, and I will ask some of my colleagues from the embassy to be here for as much of the conference as possible so that I get feedback from them once I return. I think Netherlands is also truly special in terms of this nature of diaspora studies, and I do not know if such conferences have been held in the past, but I am very happy that Vrije University has this chair instituted by the Lala Rook Foundation. Netherlands has world-class universities which can bring a lot of academic rigor and interesting perspectives. The title is very well chosen: challenging perspectives, challenging prevailing ideas as well as looking for new ideas. And Netherlands has a significant and a very interesting, very complex diaspora, I think, which itself provides a lot of material for study and for inquiry. And by basing such conferences in the Netherlands, you have an opportunity not only to look at the diaspora worldwide, but also to look in depth at the diaspora here in this country, as well as Suriname, to which a large majority is linked. So you have a lot of material locally available, and I think area which has been relatively under-researched. So there is great scope for a lot more research, a lot more studies, a lot more papers, and there is enormous benefit that you would bring through your studies to the world of knowledge, to the academic community across the world, as well as to people like us who are policy makers within the government of India and within various governments, including the Netherlands, on highlighting some of the issues concerning the diaspora and guiding us on our path of making many of these policies. Let me just, I'm sure most of the scholars here would be well aware of the Government of India's approach towards the Indian diaspora, but let me quickly just summarize it in a few sentences. The Indian government, ever since independence, has always had an extremely positive approach towards the Indian diaspora overall. As many of you would know, Mahatma Gandhi was a person who lived in South Africa for almost 23 or 24 years and did his entire political, the Satyagraha was invented in South Africa. His entire political experiments began in South Africa before he came back to India. So I think there are many who have very proudly said that Mahatma Gandhi was the first Pravasi, as we call it, the overseas Indian. And similarly, Jawaharlal Nehru, as well as many of his generation in the independence movement, lived abroad, studied abroad, were familiar with foreign countries. Nehru traveled extensively to various countries of the world, to both Western countries as well as the Soviet Union and East European countries, to see how the political systems worked there, came back. And the Indian National Congress also had a great long tradition of looking at international events, of expressing support to China, which was at the time under the colonization by Japan, and to speak about the liberation of people of developing countries in colonies across the world, far before India even got its independence. So the Indian nationalist movement always had a very strong international perspective, and beginning from that perspective, once India became independent, the government was very clear in its mind that the people from India who have traveled abroad, who lived abroad, some of them voluntarily, some of them taken as indentured labor, as in the case of Suriname, some who have subsequently gone in search of better economic opportunities. All of them are important to the government, to the country. All of them deserve special attention, and the government should do everything possible to keep them connected to India. But beginning from and of course, a very important principle which the Indian government stands very closely with even today is that Prime Minister Nehru had clearly articulated there should never be any dual loyalties to overseas Indians. Their first loyalty is to the country of their citizenship. They should remain committed to their country in which they live in, while they are welcome to be culturally, emotionally, economically, and in terms of family ties connected to India. India never asks them to give up in any manner on their country of stay. The Prime Minister Nehru himself had very categorically stated that the first commitment should be to the country in which you live. And subsequently, the government has repeatedly reiterated to diaspora communities, to overseas Indians, wherever they live, that you must contribute to the society in which you live. You must respect the laws of the countries in which you live. You must support the governments and what they are trying to do, and work for the welfare of whoever is in the community around you, irrespective of whether it is a wealthy or a prosperous country, or irrespective of whether it is a poor developing country. But there must be a commitment to the local community. So India has never seen itself as someone attracting supranational loyalties. First commitment to citizen, then be connected with India, do whatever you can for India. But the big change or a big step forward was, I think, during the government of Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, when we started having the first big Pravasi Bharatiya conferences in India, which has been happening for almost every year since then, when large number of Pravasis from across the world are invited. The day chosen for the Pravasi conference is January 9th, the day Mahatma Gandhi returned to India from South Africa. And every year, the government discusses diaspora issues. People from across the world gather. Awards are given to the most eminent of diaspora members. We have Mr. Rabindranath Singh, who is a winner of the Pravasi Saman Award in past years. And there are discussions, there are debates, and the government has been progressively trying to strengthen its policy and its approach towards diaspora. And let me add that under the current government of Prime Minister Modi, this has been taken an even higher to an even higher level by the simple energy and attention that he has given to the diaspora wherever he has traveled. In the last 3 years plus, he has traveled extensively, but wherever he went, he has made it a point to reach out to the diaspora, to have large gatherings, to speak to them, to tell them about India's achievements. And along with it, as India has grown from strength to strength, as the process of economic liberalization started within India in the early 90s, as India touched 7% plus growth in the last 10 years, as Indian industry went global, with the Tatas have a presence here in the Netherlands. We are one of the largest steel makers in Europe. ArcelorMittal is one of the largest steel makers in Europe. Tata purchased Jaguar, and so many examples. As Indian industry went global, as India's economic strength started to grow, as more Indians started traveling, the visibility of India as well as Indians in the communities they lived progressively increased. I would just like to mention the India-US nuclear deal as being a very major landmark in terms of the involvement of the Indian community in the US in helping India engage with the US government and to get the nuclear deal passed through the Congress. There was a huge effort which was made. Both the US government and the Indian government wanted the nuclear deal to go through, but there was a lot of resistance within the Congress. And so both governments, but in particular Indian government, worked closely with Indian community members across the US to meet local congressmen, to meet local senators, to lobby with them, and to ensure that the nuclear deal passed through the Congress. So it was one example, one outstanding example of how the Indian government was able to work closely with the Indian community across the US to get a policy legislation passed, which both the governments of the two countries favored. And while we have prime ministers of Indian origin in many countries, in Portugal right now we have a prime minister of Indian origin, in Mauritius we have had always prime ministers of or presidents of Indian origin. So we have had political leaders in many parts of the world, and UK has always had a big political presence of Indians in the parliament, but the India-US nuclear deal truly stands out as a classic example of collective lobbying supported by the Indian government and the US government, where the Indian community played a big role. So I come back from the nuclear deal back to the Netherlands, where I would say that I've been here for a limited period of less than 4 months, but in my 4 months I've already seen how the diaspora here is very different from the diaspora anywhere else in the world. I have in the past lived and worked in the United States, where we have a very strong and powerful diaspora, as I just now mentioned, over 2 million strong, well-educated, amongst the largest economic earners, everyone having very important influence in their local communities. There is no Diwali function today, I think, which happens anywhere in the US without local congressmen or local political leaders belonging to other communities coming and being part. Both the Indian community has learned that it is important to have these political leaders as part of their activities, and the political leaders have learned that the Indian community can be a source of votes, can be a source of funding, and they represent cultural diversity at its best, and that they come from a background of tolerance, pluralism, human rights, democracy, rule of law, all of which conform to US values. But the other posting where I've had occasion to interact extensively with the diaspora was when I was Consul General of India in Dubai. The UAE is a country where there is over 2 million Indians who live there, but almost all of them are Indian citizens. And because of the proximity of the Gulf to India and the close family and economic ties, they remain very closely integrated with India. They are a huge force for the good for India. There are many people who went as very poor people to the Gulf as workers. Today are multi-billionaires. They have opened big business establishments in the Gulf and now are returning to invest in India. And many of them, by virtue of knowledge of Arabic, by virtue of having business partners in the local leaders, are very influential in the local government, and they are always ready and willing to help the Indian government in its various tasks of improving relations. So to come back to the diaspora here, I think the big dilemma has been that out of around 235,000 people that we would have of Indian origin altogether in the Netherlands, around 35,000 are from India, and almost 2 lakh are people of Indian origin who have come from Suriname. And traditionally, these communities have not mixed. And I've heard, I think there is an idealist view and there is a realist view, and the two proponents are sitting next to each other. But let me say that the idealist view is, look, there are numbers. The 35,000 strong from India include some very prominent businessmen, the best of Indian IT professionals, the engineers, financial experts, chartered accountants. So if we can combine the numbers, if we can combine the monetary clout that Indian business has today abroad, and there are over 200 Indian companies here in the Netherlands, roughly the same number that the Dutch companies that are there in India. So if we can combine the numbers, if we can combine the money, if we can combine the brains, we should be a very big force here in this community. While the realistic view, which opposes that, I think, is to say, no, the two communities can never mix. Their history is completely different. They speak different languages. Their psychology is different. Their thinking is different. And it is impossible to bring them together. The twain shall never meet is, I think, the counter argument to the idealist view. And caught in between, I think the reality is, and in a way it is a sad reality, in many ways the Indians in Netherlands are seen as the invisible community. I met a very prominent political leader, the mayor of a major city here, and he said, I have only one complaint against your community, that is, you are invisible. You are not to be seen. You are too low profile. And why is it that we are so low profile? I think there are many friends I have in the Indian community here who look at the Moroccans or the Turks with envy at the kind of profile they have within the Netherlands, the kind of presence they have in virtually all fields of activity. Not much, okay, there might be a negative side to it also, but there is a huge positive side in terms of political presence, in terms of presence in the parliament, in terms of presence in business leadership, in sports, in entertainment industry, which the Indian community here has not been able to achieve till now. And also in terms of forging unity amongst the community and translating it into political results. it is very difficult to find one umbrella, one organization which brings all Indians together and which can truly mobilize and motivate these people to work collectively for the interest of the community as a whole, or for a longer term project of India, Netherlands relations for better economic and business ties. And I wonder here, and I have wondered, I think by the end of my term here, I shall probably write a paper. Please have this conference every year, and before I leave, I promise you I shall present a paper on how my interaction with this community has been, and it is indeed the most complex of my challenges, the challenges that I have seen before. I think the US community and the people in Dubai were very easy compared to Netherlands. And that is, I wonder if there is something, a new term, there's the term psychology of the colonized. Can we say psychology of the double displaced? The people whose ancestors went from India to Suriname and then from Suriname to they came here. Because truly, it is very difficult to understand and to figure out what all goes through those minds and how they perceive themselves in society. To a large extent, the indentured labor were taken, some forcibly, some voluntarily, some because of poverty. But I'm sure, and some it is said that they were told Suriname is a land of gold and they are all going to come back to India with bags full of gold. But they went, and then they were forced to eke out a new living. And then after several generations of living there, Suriname attained independence. And then there was this large movement. 1975 was the first big movement to the Netherlands. And then in 1980, when a military coup took place, a second big movement happened towards Netherlands. So first you are forcibly taken, or you are not entirely voluntarily taken. Then you live in a completely strange land, which again, Suriname is a fascinating ethnic mix of different communities. And then from there, 75, caused by whatever fears you had of local rule, independence was not seen as a welcome gesture, but a time to go to the original colonial master. And then when the military coup happened, probably reconfirmed the fears of most people. And then when they come to the Netherlands, they do find a system which offers a lot of freedom, a system which is a democracy, a system where there is rule of law, but you are a very small minority with the perception that there are hundreds of glass barriers which prevent the minorities from moving up the economic and social ladder as fast as the predominant community in this country is concerned. So I think the psychology is certainly something worth studying, and the psychology and its impact on the community as a whole. And today what happens is there is an older generation which is probably more comfortable in Dutch and Hindi, but there is a new younger generation coming up which has been born here, who speak good English and Dutch, whose links with Suriname are not that strong, who in a way are unfamiliar and not very clear as to how they should relate to the Suriname of today and whether they really want to relate to the Suriname of today. And in between we have us from the Indian government telling everybody, please connect to India. India is the land of economic opportunity. Come do your business in India, take your OCI cards, come and study in India, work in India, travel in India. So all these conflicting pulls and pressures are working on the predominant diaspora here. And let me just mention one more word. I also wonder, as part of this questioning or inquiring about this psychology of the double displays, what contributes to this very low profile character of the community? If in India a child grows up listening to stories of the independence movement, he grows up listening to stories of Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru and how India fought for independence. India fought in a very unique manner and wrested independence from the hands of the British. So it's a huge success story. And then you have the economic rise, fastest growing economy in the world, booming country, large population, IT success story, biotechnology success story, industrial giant. So there are a lot of positive reinforcement which happens to Indian children from their childhood. So when they grow up, they get jobs. When they come out, they come with a lot of confidence and sometimes I think a dangerous level of arrogance or ultra-nationalism. But they come very gung-ho and they are not embarrassed about India anymore, today's India. Once upon a time, maybe we were worried about the snake charmers and the Mother Teresa image. But today, the people who come out have a very positive image of India, and India is one of the most optimistic societies in the world. Most people feel that their lives are getting better and will continue to become better. So, but here, if we need to get the Indian community to become more high profile, to get more involved in politics, to get more involved in social and economic activities, to be present in all walks of life, I think there is need to put a lot of more confidence in them. There is need to encourage them to, there's need to create a positive narrative and instill it in the community so that they can flower to the true extent of their genuine potential. And they can contribute not just to this country, but to their own families, to all societies to which they are linked, whether in Suriname or India, and to the whole world. So I conclude. Thank you so much for having listened so patiently to me. Let me just say once again how happy I am this conference is happening and how sorry I am unable to sit through. I wish all of you very useful and successful deliberations. And on my part, I would like to put forward a proposal which is in public, which is that if the Lala Rook Foundation, if all the organizers can come together and create a photo exhibition on the Suriname diaspora, on the Indian diaspora in Netherlands, I would be very happy to try and get the government of India to support it, so that we have some kind of a permanent memorial which tells the story of the Indian diaspora coming here. I've already met the Director of National Archives here. They are just now having a wonderful exhibition on the East India Company. But I told him that it will be wonderful if the National Archives can cooperate with us, so we can try and see who all can partner us in this effort. But I think this is an initiative worth taking. We should have a good visual record which can travel around the country, which anybody can visit anytime, and we can all access. And we need a lot more research, a lot more publications. I hope that will happen in the coming days. The Embassy of India and the Government of India stand ready to extend every support possible to this wonderful initiative. Thank you very much.